So, JJ Abrams was revealed to have a super deal with Warner Brothers. I know almost none of the details about this because I've heard conflicting reports about it. Everything from he's the new Kevin Feige to he's the new Zack Snyder to he has a deal for a couple films. I'm very confused by this. Not that they would choose him, although I'm a little bit shocked given his work with Star Wars that he's not going to jump on board the Marvel train immediately afterwards. I'm a little bit surprised that he is going to DC.
I think Marvel has more than enough talented directors out there. They don't need JJ.
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of talented directors, but JJ also specifically is working with Marvel for other stuff. And I thought that other stuff was going to lead to a specific film deal for him. That the reason he got his son to do Spider-Man comic was going to have to do with a deal that he made with Disney to do movies for Disney, because he's a massively successful super director. So I'm really confused by this because I don't know what possible deal he could have made with Disney to get his son to be able to write a Spider-Man comic if it's not a film-related deal. Yeah. That's just mainly what confused me.
It could have just been that his deal was, hey, if you let my son write this comic book, you can put my name on it too.
But Disney wouldn't give a crap about that. Disney doesn't give much of a crap about the comics unless they're being used to like market test a certain idea that they have or a storyline or a character. I really don't get the sense that Disney cares about Marvel comics. So yeah.
It could also have been that, hey, if you let my son do this, we have an amazing marketing idea that'll piss a lot of fans off, but also help the book sell majorly. Because I'm sorry, the way they marketed this comic book did piss a lot of fans off. But at the same time, I don't know if it's come out yet, but if it has, I'm sure it's
first issue has.
Oh, it has? I'm sure it's selling really good. I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm sure it is.
Yeah, first issue is good.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's selling really well too. Right? I'll have to look it up later.
I bet. I mean, Spider-Man always sells well, so yeah, I expect so.
You got Spider-Man selling well, and you got the fact that a lot of people now know about this. You know, people who normally don't know about comics or aren't in the know about comic book events probably know about this because of the controversy of the way they marketed it, which I still find hilarious just altogether. There's no way that was an accident the way they did it, even though they haven't commented on it one way or another, but it was not an accident.
Also, I love how I specifically chose a JJ Abrams related story because it related to DC and not Spider-Man, but we found a way to connect it back to Spider-Man. So we have more Spider-Man news. Speaking of Spider-Man, no, I'm not going to go down this route. Maybe, should we just touch on it real quick?
I guess I'll just get my thoughts out there real quick.
So hints that Tom Holland is putting out that he's still on board for TV series. And then also his comments about Sony.
Yeah, that he's apparently expects to be making an appearance or two in some Spider-Man related TV shows, which confused me. Because what I always thought, this is how it was that Marvel still owned the TV rights when it came to Spider-Man.
I also thought this. Yeah, because I thought TV rights, even live action TV rights, were kept separately anyways. Yeah. I just thought the reason they didn't use them was to minimize confusion.
And to be on, I think another part of it was because Kevin Feige does try to get on the good side of other studios. Yeah. So I figured that played a major factor as well. It's why he made those deals with Fox for trading in X-Men related properties for them to do X-Men TV shows. Because I know that Fox didn't own the rights to X-Men TV. They had to make deals for those. So my question though, so if Sony's had the rights for live action Spider-Man for all this time, I find it just really strange that we haven't gotten a live action Spider-Man show this whole time.
I don't. Sony is the only one that hasn't really stepped into the streaming market like that. They don't have their own streaming service. They don't have their own major television studio to compete with like HBO and Starz and stuff. They don't have their version of Netflix or Amazon Prime. They don't have the infrastructure built for it. So they'd have to invest possibly hundreds of millions in an infrastructure that wouldn't necessarily be useful in the long term.
Or they could just have pitched a Spider-Man. They could have gotten someone to pitch a Spider-Man show to any network, and that network would have to pay them to basically produce the Spider-Man show on their network. So they could have done like a cheaper cable show.
It wouldn't have been probably involve giving up a certain amount of freedom to whatever network published the show.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Which I don't think Sony's willing to do. Sony was barely willing to share Spider-Man with Disney for a few years. Why would they ever share Spider-Man with a television studio that's honestly going to be most likely owned by Fox or Disney?
Yeah, nowadays it would have been, but yeah. All right. That's a fair point. I don't know. To me, I feel like this is something, if I were like part of Sony, I would have like even before, even like, let's say they've owned Spider-Man shows since the Sam Raimi movies. I feel like I would have like from the start been wanting to be like, hey, you know what? We'll do a cheap Spider-Man show. It surprised me that we never saw like a Buffy the Vampire style Spider-Man show on the CW, because I feel like that would have been like something I would have tried jumping on if I were like a producer for Sony. Like, it would have probably been bad, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it would have been amazing, but it still would have been like, as long as you don't invest too much money into it, it wouldn't have been that big of a loss if it ended up being a flop.
Yeah. Also, I've never really thought that web was a very expensive thing to reproduce digitally either.
But early 2000s shows rarely used computer effects, and usually when they did, it was always just for lights. And
but
so
what about now?
Now, yeah, but I'm talking about like if they've had it since Spider-Man came out like 2002, right? Or 2001? 2001, yeah. So if they've had the rights since 2001, though, I'm surprised that we never saw like a similar, like a Spider-Man show in the same like high school drama kind of vein that Buffy was on the CW or any other network, like ABC or something else. Yeah, but like I said, yeah, so it all just kind of comes down to just I could definitely see your points of why they probably haven't tried it before. They probably just didn't want other people to have their own kind of creative control over him.
Probably just has to do with how anal they are about the Spider-Man property, mixed with not wanting another studio involved in it.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. And like I said, it probably would have been a terrible show, but I would have loved to have seen what it would have looked like.